Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Lazy Girl's Guide to Podcasting. For those of you who have been here before, no matter how many times, thank you for coming back. It's great to see you. For those of you who are new to this podcast, then hi, I'm Verity. It is great to see you here on this channel and this podcast. I talk a lot about podcasting. In this episode, we are going to be talking about batching the tasks related to your podcast. Now, this is something that you've probably heard about batching content a lot before. It's something that gets talked about in social media management an awful lot. It's something that gets talked about in the YouTube world as well. So I want to talk about it from a podcasting point of view as well, because I was somebody who never used to batch my content. I used to go through my process and I used to start right from the beginning of researching an episode, recording it, guest outreach, all of that, editing. I'd basically go through the entire process before moving on to my next episode. And sometimes that can work really, really well, depending on who you are, depending on how your brain works and how your workflows work and what have you. But what I have found lately and in the last 4 months or so is I now batch the tasks for my podcast episodes, and I find it so much easier, so much more liberating. Now, when I say batching, I do not have a time or date in my calendar where I'm like, right, the first Monday of the month, I'm going to sit down and record all my episodes. The second Tuesday of the month, I'm going to do all the social media posts or whatever. I don't have the luxury of doing that because of the way that my schedule works with the children, with work and all the rest of it. I don't have the luxury of doing that. But what I do tend to do is batch everything together. So what I do like to do is over a couple of days, once a month, I like to record all of my episodes. I like to get everything recorded. So if you're watching on YouTube, you might notice that I end up wearing the same top for a few episodes. That's because I'm batch recording and because I'm not imaginative enough to go and change my makeup, put makeup on in this situation, or go change my clothing. I know there are some people on YouTube who are way more organized than me, but that is not me, unfortunately. So what I like to do is I like to batch episodes. So sometimes I do quite a few in one go. So for example, at the moment, this is the third one that I've batched this evening. I'm probably going to leave it there then for this evening because it's now nearly 8:30 in the evening and I want to go do something else in the evening before bed, basically. So I do limit the amount of time that I tend to spend on recording because what I don't want rather is for listeners to listen to an episode and be like, oh my God, that's clearly the 6th one that she recorded that day because the energy's not there and all the rest of it. But as I said, I like to try and get all of my episodes done in one hit or one over a couple of days, because then what I can do is I've then got the time where I can just sit down, pull out the laptop at any time when the baby's asleep, when the kids are doing whatever they're doing, when, there's downtime. Then I can pull the laptop out. I can edit everything. I use Riverside, so super easy and simple. And I can just edit loads of stuff in one go. Once I've got everything edited, I then throw it all through SummarAIze. Still haven't figured out how I'm supposed to pronounce that, but never mind. Throw it all through that tool and I get loads and loads of content for social media. So that's kind of 3 stages of batching right there. I will batch record, I batch edit, and then I run everything through SummarAIze so that I can get my shareable content. From there, I then bulk upload everything to my podcast hosting platform, which is currently Megaphone. I bulk upload everything to there, and then I will do all of my show notes, my titles. I then bulk upload everything to YouTube. I copy and paste across the stuff that does copy and paste across, and then any additional YouTube assets that I need to do, I will additionally do those. I will then create the YouTube thumbnails in batch, and then I will use Canva to resize them for the episode graphics for the podcast. So I do everything in stages like that. And to be honest with you, I just find it easier because then I just know that if I'm working on thumbnails, for example, then I know that all my thumbnails are just done for that collection of episodes. And generally speaking, what I try and do is get a good few weeks ahead of myself. So for August, for example, I was actually really super organized. And for August, I managed to batch all of my episodes at the end of July / the beginning of August. So for most of August, I don't think I did barely any recording. I think I maybe recorded a couple of episodes just because these ideas came to mind, but they didn't come out in August. They're coming out later on in the year. So I don't think I actually did any recording, but it was all about just batching. And as I said, it's just about pulling those different similar tasks together. Now, the downside of batching is that you need to have the time together to make sure that you've got, that you can get through all the tasks. Because if you're editing, the Lazy Girls Guide to Podcasting, I try and do 2 episodes a week. Doesn't always happen, but at minimum 1 episode per week. So that is at minimum, 4 to 5 episodes a month to edit and do everything else for. At most, that could be like 10 episodes per month, depending on how the weeks fall and the days fall within the month. So it's making sure that you've got the time to do these tasks and not feeling completely overwhelmed, and then actually breaking down the batches into smaller batches if need be, if there is a massive long task list. So as I said, like this evening, I've only recorded 3 episodes, and then I'm going to record more episodes at some other point over the next couple of weeks. But having switched to batching, I much prefer it. I know it doesn't work for everybody. I know some people like to go in and finish, start a task, go right through all the way to finish. But batching for me has been really, really useful. It's really helped me keep on top of things as well. I use ClickUp. I was using Asana, but I've moved over to ClickUp for keeping all of my processes in place, and I can just go through, and it's great. I get to go through and I can just tick off like YouTube thumbnails, and I can go through and tick that off for every single episode for that month or those few weeks or what have you. So yes, that's how I batch. I'm going to do another episode which actually goes into more depth as to what my podcast workflow looks like, and then you'll get more of an idea as to how my batching process works as well. So that will come later on. But do you batch your episodes? I'd be really interested to know whether or not you batch your podcasting tasks as well, or whether or not you just don't bother. And if you do batch, how are you finding it? I feel I've said the word batch way too much. It's kind of lost all meaning now. But regardless, I hope that you have found this useful as ever. And if you haven't tried batching your podcast content before, then are you thinking of doing it now? Or have you tried it in the past and it just didn't work for you, or it did work for you and you're continuing with it? As ever, if you are on YouTube, make sure you let me know in the comments below. If you are listening the podcast audio via any podcast directory, let me know on Twitter as well, at VeritySongon. It's where I hang out the most. I would love it as well if you could take just a couple of minutes to either like and subscribe, leave a comment if you're on YouTube, or if you're on a podcasting directory, I would love it if you could hit those stars, give us a 5-star review, and leave just even a short review, just saying how much you're enjoying the episodes, and feel free to share these episodes as well with anyone who you think would absolutely love them. It'd be much, much appreciated. And I love it when people actually do DM me and say, hey, I had somebody who I know who suggested listening to your podcast and I'm really enjoying it. So thank you to all of those of you who are sharing the episodes. If you haven't done this yet, then please let somebody know about this episode or any other episodes in the back catalogue of the Lazy Girls Guide to Podcasting. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining me as ever, and I will see you next episode.